Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Mainframe Technical Exchange, the Next Gen Millennial presentation. Interview is going to be with Jonathan Hamer and Dai Nguyen. My name is Richard Gilbert. I am a senior software engineer at Broadcom, work on the Datacom product. I've been here for about 11 years, and that's enough about me. Let's start talking about these gentlemen here. Jonathan.
Hey everyone, my name is Jonathan Hamer, and I am on the Datacom DB team.
And
Hey
Dai.
everyone. All right. Hey everyone, my name is Dai. I am also on the Datacom team, and I work on the CICS portion of it.
Excellent. Let's get into it. All right, so we're gonna just ask some questions of these guys to talk about their experience so far from basically from school on into their career here. Jonathan, how did you find Broadcom, or CA at the time, I should say?
I actually found CA Technologies, which is now Broadcom, by chance. I'm originally from Illinois, and a family friend who worked for CA at the time sent a letter to my family's home with a CA envelope. From that point, I reached out to her and let her know I was interested in possibly working for CA. She asked if I was willing to go to Plano, Texas, and I said yes, and then I completed the application process. I went through the interview process, and the rest is history, and I started in August of 2014.
Wow. Dai, what about you?
Yep. So after graduation, a recruiter reached out to me and, essentially was like, hey, we're looking for a support engineer, and would you be interested? I expressed my interest, I sent them my resume, and, I guess the rest is history as well. So we went through the interview process, and here I am. I started in, I believe it was June of 2014. And yeah, I've been here ever since.
Outstanding. So, well, how did you end up on the mainframe side? I mean, it's not exactly the standard out there.
Yeah. Well, actually, my family friend that I just spoke about, she informed me of the positions that were available when I reached out to her, and mainframe support was one of them. At the time, I had no idea what a mainframe was, and I had to start researching to even get an idea of it. And even when I started, I still didn't fully understand what a mainframe was. But that's how I ended up in mainframe.
Dai?
Yeah. So for me, I took a couple of courses in college. It was a DB2 course, a COBOL course, and just an overall MVS course on the mainframe. And I thought it was pretty interesting. And then, yeah, I mean, my professor always said that, hey, if you want a good career, go check out the mainframe. And, sure enough, a recruiter reached out, and I was like, hey, why not? Let's check it out. So here I am.
Good, good. Jonathan, did you have any experience with other products outside of mainframe before coming to Broadcom?
No, I had not had any experience with any products outside of anything. I finished school, and then I immediately started in support in the mainframe.
Good. Dai?
Outside of the mainframe, I mean, I've had probably Linux support, and that's probably about it. I mean, other than, just your general coursework, but aside from that, that's it.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
so no real extensive software experience before joining the mainframe at all?
No, I did not have any extensive knowledge of software at all. I was at that moment in my life, I was completing my master's degree, and I hadn't worked with software in a professional setting at all. So it was a really eye-opening experience for me joining support.
And Dai?
Yeah. So, okay. So in that sense, I was working at a company doing application support. It was on the Windows-based platform. And I mean, we went over like XML, HTML, and it's more so distributed stuff. But aside from that, that's basically it.
Okay. And So when you started at Broadcom or CA, uh, what role did you start in?
When I joined the support department, I started as an associate support engineer. My main responsibilities from the start were to work hard and to work closely with my teammates at the time to develop my mainframe skills and knowledge as much as possible. And I originally started on a tape product called CA1.
And Di, what were your job duties?
Yeah, so I started in support as well. I was working on a product called CA Disk at the time. It's a storage product on a mainframe. Essentially just taking on cases and seeing, why the product wasn't running for customers and just trying to help them troubleshoot those issues.
Good. What kind of training did you get to learn mainframe when you got here?
Yeah, primarily there were two different versions of training that I received. One was on the job training, and then the other was the ASE training. The ASE training was only roughly 2 weeks, and we spent that time solely working on JCL, learning JCL. But yeah, it was on the job training and then a 2-week ASE training.
Di?
Yeah, so mine was probably about the same. During the ASE training, that helped a lot. So the ASE training was the associate support engineer or the associate software engineer program that CA at the time provided for, I guess, their new hires and introduced them to the mainframe. And it's typically it's a 6 weeks course. Me and Jonathan, however, only did the 2 weeks, and then the remainder 4 weeks was more on the assembler side. So we did not partake in that part. But CA at the time provided training for us, which was really nice because the mainframe was pretty new for me.
Yeah, it's not very commonly taught in schools anymore, right? So
Yep.
So when you got in and you started your roles in support, what kind of help, guidance, mentorship, et cetera, did you have? Or you weren't just thrown to the wolves, right?
Well, sort of. The how it was that when we first started, we were assigned mentors who worked on the specific product. So Dai had a mentor on his product and I had mentors on my product. So for CA1, I had 2 mentors, and for the most part, yeah, we were kind of just thrown in, and I think within a month we were basically already kind of taking cases. My mentors at the time had extensive knowledge with CA1. Both of them had worked on the product for at least 20 years for each of them before I even joined the team. And due to the mainframe not being widely taught throughout the university system within the US, mainframe knowledge isn't widely known. So your mentors were kind of like your life source of learning the product and learning the mainframe at the same time.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Jonathan,
I
what
agree.
about you, Di?
Yeah, so I mean, I agree with everything that Jonathan said. Like everybody that was here at the time when I started, everybody had at least 20 plus years of mainframe experience. So if you had a question, typically there was going to be an answer from somebody. Somebody knows the answer to your question. So it's just a matter about who to ask those questions to. So yeah, I'm just thankful that everybody here had that kind of experience, so I didn't feel lost whenever I started, because man, like without their support and help, I don't know what I would have done, trying to figure out the mainframe without any experience. So
Absolutely.
yep.
So when you guys were transitioning from level 1 support into more sustaining engineering, software development role. What kinds of training did you get for that?
Okay, yeah. So in a way, it's kind of similar, except we had a lot more mainframe knowledge overall with maneuvering within the mainframe. But the type of support we and training we received was kind of interesting. So Dai mentioned the ASC program and how we did the first 2 weeks. Well, when we joined this team, we ended up doing the last 2 weeks of that program, which was the assembler training. So we did the assembler training at the ASC program, and then we also were assigned mentors so Dai on the CICS, and then me and DB, where we have a mentor who would kind of help us with the assembler and kind of getting our hands on it. And then also our mentors would help us just learn how to work defects for me, for example, and systems and the whole 9 yards and XDC. So that was, and going through listings. So it's very similar, but a little different.
So Dai, tell me how your career has evolved and like what desires do you have for the future?
Oh man, so my career's evolved, I guess, different ways. Starting in support was, just trying to get familiarized with the mainframe, and then working on the mainframe and just getting in the groove of things, and then transitioning over to the software development side. It was essentially a whole new world that that opened up, and learning how to code assembler is like trying to pick up bits and pieces and just trying to build something out of it, and it's quite a challenge as far as like career evolvement wise. But as far as like the future goes, hopefully I'm here for the next 20 years working on the mainframe like everybody else here, and being professionals and being the best in the industry with it. So that's me.
Good. Jonathan?
Yeah, my career has evolved in multiple ways while with CA, which is now Broadcom. I spent 5 years working in support on tape management, CA1 to be exact. I went to the leadership development program in Islandia. I was on call for CA1, which was a very interesting character building experience as well, especially when you go on call. I think 8 months into your support career, you're just like, wow, that you have to help these clients, get to some sort of resolution as quickly as possible in the middle of the night. So
Yeah.
that's such a interesting experience.
So what is the level 2 role that you mentioned? Can you describe it?
Yeah, so the level 2 role, it's based on engineers being responsible for working on defects with the product. So for example, customers, they purchase Datacom, and if they're having an issue with the product, they will open up a case with support, and support will look at it and they'll decide, oh, this looks to not be a simple question. It might be a bug or a defect. They will open up the defect with us, level 2, and then level 2, we will review dumps that the client sends in, logs that the client sends in, output as well, and then we will try to recreate it in-house, find out what's occurring, and then once we've recreated it, we will create a fix, which is basically a fixing maybe a small, tiny few lines of code. We will then give it to the customer. They will test it, and then if they verify that it works, then we will eventually publish it for all customers to download and apply into their Datacom DB.
Dai, I was going to ask, now that you're a software engineer, do you feel your time in support provided you with a different perspective on this?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. With support, it was a little bit different because it's more so like frontline experience where, you know, you're talking to the customer. If they have an issue, you kind of walking them through what might be causing their issue. But um, as far as if, like Jonathan said, you know, if it's more to it than that, then it gets escalated over to the level 2 team, and you know, essentially level 2 and development are kind of one and the same almost. So when that defect comes over, you know, it's a whole different ballgame because you have to look at, you know, the micro level of what is growing, like what is going on into down into the bits and pieces of the code, and you know, trying to figure out, you know, at what point did the code fail, or where did it fail. So um but yeah, as far as like the support experience goes, I mean, it helped a lot because it built the baseline for me to transition over to the software engineering side and use that experience to, you know, kind of guide my way through in the software engineering side of things. So
Good, good. Jonathan, what's your take on it?
Yeah, now that I'm in software engineering, my time in support was very valuable. If I came directly into level 2, I wouldn't have the understanding of how the end user uses the products and what their perspective is on the opposite end. So by gaining that knowledge, I can identify that it isn't only about fixing lines of code, but making sure the product works seamlessly for the client. So having both perspectives is very important in order to create a product that is worthy of being used, and you know, you're proud of people using, and you're just happy with the work you're doing.
So, Dai, what's kept you here? What's keeping you on the mainframe?
well, so the mainframe, it's challenging, you know, so I like challenges. It's nice to work on. It's I wouldn't say it's simple, but it's straightforward, you know. It's black and white. There's or for me that is, I mean, but as far as like, you know, staying there, there's also a lot of experience to learn from others in the mainframe space as well. Like we mentioned earlier, you know, everybody here has 20 plus years of experience, and you know, to learn from somebody that has 20 years of experience on, you know, working in the industry, it helps a lot with, you know, allowing me to stay where I'm at, because if I have questions, I always know where to go to ask. So, but yeah, that's what kept me in the mainframe, is just, you know, essentially that it's a nice challenge, and everybody's easy to work with, and there's a lot of knowledge to learn from them. So.
Jonathan, what's kept you here?
Yeah, I've stayed in the mainframe space for a few reasons. Overall, I enjoy the challenge, and I've learned so much. It's an encompassing giant that dates back decades in the past. Not only that, but the mainframe isn't reported on in the same way other companies and other technologies are, although it's widely used within the software industry. So it's almost like a sleeping giant that no one knows about, but basically everyone kind of has used at some point in their life, whether they knew it or not. So it's just an enjoyable, challenging endeavor.
I agree. Dai, would you say that the mainframe is a long-term professional destination?
No, absolutely, yeah. The mainframe, I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. It's so embedded into all of these corporations and enterprises. You know, it's always going to be here. It's essentially what runs the world. You know, I mean, it may not be as shiny as, you know, like a cloud environment, but you know, it's stable, and everybody has it in some form or fashion. You know, and I definitely recommend it.
So, Jonathan, what about you? I
I,
lost my,
oh,
I lost my train of thought there. Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I would definitely agree with the sentiment that the mainframe is a long-term professional destination. The reason I believe this is because, you know, you can kind of look at the people who work in it. Industries where there's tons and tons of turnover, you can understand it's evident when you see an industry with a lot of turnover, and then you look at our industry with our colleagues, for example, where they've been working on the mainframe for roughly 40 years, the people who I work with now. So for them to stay 40 years, it presents indicators that it's enjoyable once you get a hang of it. Um, it and you know, if they want to stay on it for 40 years and they enjoy working on it for 40 years, there must be something there. So to newcomers, I would definitely recommend it, but they would just need to know that it takes a while to really get a grip on it. So just being patient and putting in the extra time is necessary to grow faster.
Absolutely. Dai, would you what's made mainframe a place to stay for you? What keeps you here?
Yeah, so what so I guess what kept me here was probably the people. I love the people that, you know, that I work with. Every one of them, it's top notch. Everyone's really knowledgeable. Everyone's really helpful. So, and you know, like Jonathan said, you know, everybody here has a lot of experience, and if they've been working here for 40 years, you know, obviously something is good about it. So, but yeah, and you know, and I start to see that too, because once you get the hang of things, things start to get easy. So once, you know, once something's easy, you just continue on doing what you're doing, and it makes it a place that's easy to stay.
So Jonathan, what sets it apart for you from the distributed?
Well, you know, originally I didn't even know what a mainframe was. So fast forward 8 years, and I'm a proponent of it because there is so much opportunity. The opportunities are, you know, professional, financial. It's just a good place to be. There's going to be a lot of space to grow. Whether you stay as a software engineer for the newcomers, support, and otherwise, if you want to, you know, try and go further up into the company. But it's a good place to be. You can enjoy life. Broadcom is really nice to be at. It's just a good professional environment for thinking about the long term.
Dai, can you describe some of the struggles you may have had with learning the mainframe space?
So with the mainframe space, learning it was definitely a challenge. It is not something that, you know, you just learn overnight, and it is definitely not easy. It like going from the PC world and then all of a sudden having to go into the mainframe space, it was like a night and day difference, and it was just a different environment. Everything about it was different. The file structure was different. So essentially, it was just learning how to walk all over again, if that makes sense, because it's just,
Absolutely.
yeah, nothing really translates over except, you know, some of the technologies, yes, but as far as like navigating and using and how it works, it's completely different from the PC world. So probably the hardest thing, and you know, the most struggles that I had was actually just trying to, you know, find the scope and trying to figure it out and trying to piece everything together. So that was my struggles. It was just a lot to learn in, you know, almost a short amount of time.
All right. Jonathan, what challenges have you met with?
Yeah, I've had a few struggles when learning the mainframe. The biggest struggle was trying to get started with learning the mainframe when, you don't even have any experience with it. So you go from zero to working in a professional environment with it. So that was like a real shock. You're almost like a fish out of water. But, from there, it just took a lot of time and dedication to grow. And then even with that being said, after a while, I knew that I wanted to go on a different path after 5 years in support. So I pursued software engineering, and it's been a good experience. I've really liked it so far.
Good. So there's a question, Dai, how would you describe what the mainframe is to someone who doesn't even know what it is?
Okay, so with the mainframe, I guess the best way that I would describe it is that essentially it is a computer, but it is not a computer where you would surf the internet or whatever. It's more so a computer that does processing of data at very high capacity versus where a computer, it can do one or two things here and there, but with a mainframe, it's all about efficiency and input and output. So, but yeah, it's just it's a big, fast operating computer. I mean, the components and such are similar to a normal PC as well, but just on a bigger scale, I guess.
Right. Jonathan, what's your perspective there?
Yeah, I would agree. When my family and friends have asked what a mainframe is, and it's always kind of hard to explain it, but the best way I can say is that a mainframe is about the size of a refrigerator, and it is a computer, but its purpose is to really deal with inputs and outputs, an excessive amount of inputs and outputs, very quickly. So a regular PC at your house, you surf the internet like Dai said, or you edit photos, or you watch YouTube videos. But with a mainframe, you are specifically, for example, with the DB, you are specifically doing database transactions faster than any other technology can do database transactions.
So a really speedy box.
Yes, basically. Yeah.
Dai, what's been in your experience working in the mainframe, what's been the most rewarding for you?
So just learning about the product itself, learning about the mainframe space, learning the technology behind it. There's a lot of history behind it. Working with the customers, working with people, working with your colleagues, it all meshes all together, and it's for the most part, it's been really rewarding. Just to be a part of something that's not very widely known, and but when you're actually in it, it's like another world that you're stepping into. So being a part of that, it's actually really rewarding.
Cool. Well, good. Jonathan?
Okay. So the most rewarding part of working in the mainframe is putting years of work into it, and then eventually kind of seeing that work come to fruition where you get better at something. Working in the mainframe is it's not a simple thing. You don't pick it up quickly. So to put in the time and then over time see that all that extra time you put in has come out to provide something great for you. And that's just a very good feeling to know that you're picking up something, getting good at it, and just growing.
I agree. I like it. All right. Well, guys, had a great time talking to you, and your answers to the questions have been hopefully helpful to some of the viewers here. And to you guys, I appreciate you joining our session, and we'll now go live for questions.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.